The richest man in history was a West African, the story never told. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, according to the 2019 Forbes Billionaires list. With an estimated fortune of $131 billion, he is the wealthiest man in modern times, but he is still far from being the richest man in history. That title is believed to belong to a 14th century West African ruler named Mansa Musa, who was so rich his generous handouts wrecked an entire country's economy for 10 years. That's insane. Keep watching for the full story. While you're here, remember to subscribe to After School Africa channel. You never know what will come next. Back to our story. According to Rudolph Ware, an associate professor of history at the University of California, contemporary accounts of Musa's wealth are so breathless that it's impossible to get a sense of just how wealthy and powerful he truly was. He was richer than anyone could describe. In 2012, US website Celebrity Net Worth estimated his wealth at $400 billion. But economic historians agree that his wealth is impossible to pin down to a number. The King of Gold. Mansa Musa was born in 1280 into a family of rulers. His brother Mansa Abubakar ruled the empire until 1312, when he resigned to go on an expedition. According to 14th century Syrian historian Shibab al-Umari, Abubakar was obsessed with the Atlantic Ocean and what lay beyond it. He reportedly embarked on an expedition with a fleet of 2,000 ships and thousands of men, women and slaves. They sailed off, never to return. In any case, Mansa Musa inherited the kingdom he left behind. Under his rule, the kingdom of Mali grew significantly. He annexed 24 cities during Timbuktu. The kingdom stretched for about 2,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to modern-day Niger, taking in parts of what are now Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea and Ivory Coast. With such a large landmass came great resources such as gold and salt. During the reign of Mansa Musa, the Empire of Mali accounted for almost half of the old world's gold, according to the British Museum, and all of it belonged to the king. As the ruler, Mansa Musa had almost unlimited access to most highly valued source of wealth in the medieval world: gold. Major trading centers that traded in gold and other goods were also in his territory, and he gained wealth from his trade. The journey to Mecca. Though the Empire of Mali was home to so much gold, the kingdom itself was not well known. This changed when Mansa Musa, a devout Muslim, decided to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca, passing through the Sahara Desert and Egypt. The king reportedly left Mali with a caravan of 60,000 men. He took his entire royal court and officials, soldiers, entertainers, merchants, camel drivers and 12,000 slaves, as well as a long train of goats and sheep for food. It was the site of a city moving through the desert, a city whose inhabitants, all the way down to the slaves, were clad in gold brocade and finest Persian silk. 100 camels were in tow, each camel carrying hundreds of pounds of pure gold. It was a sight to behold, and the sight got even more opulent once the caravan reached Cairo, where they could really show off their wealth. The Cairo's economic gold crash. Mansa Musa left such a memorable impression on Cairo that Al-Umari who visited the city 12 years after the Malian king, recounted how highly the people of Cairo were speaking of him. So lavishly did he hand out gold in Cairo that his 3-month stay caused the price of gold to plummet in the region for 10 years, wrecking the economy. US-based technology company smartassets.com estimates that due to the depreciation of gold, Mansa Musa's pilgrimage led to about $1.5 billion of economic losses across the Middle East. On his way back home, Mansa Musa passed through Egypt again and, according to some, tried to help the country's economy by removing some of the gold from circulation by borrowing it back at extortionate interest rates from Egyptian lenders. Others says he spent so much that he ran out of gold. Education at heart. There is no doubt that Mansa Musa spent or wasted a lot of gold during his pilgrimage. But it was this excessive generosity that also caught the eyes of the world. Mansa Musa had put Mali and himself on the map, quite literally. In a Catalan atlas map from 1375, a drawing of an African king sits on a golden throne atop Timbuktu, holding a piece of gold in his hand. Timbuktu became an African El Dorado, and people came from near and far to have a glimpse. In the 19th century, it still had a mythical status as a lost city of gold at the edge of the world, a beacon for both European fortune hunters and explorers. And this was largely down to the exploits of Mansa Musa 500 years earlier. Mansa Musa returned from Mecca with several Islamic scholars, including direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, and an Andalusian poet and architect by the name of Abu Ishaq es-Salih, who is widely credited with designing the famous Djinn Goreba Mosque, which still stands today. The king reportedly paid the poet 200 kg in gold, which in today's money would be $8.2 million, in addition to encourage the arts and architecture. He also funded literature and built schools, libraries and mosques. Timbuktu soon became a center of education, and people traveled from around the world to study at what would become Sankore University. The rich king is often credited with starting the tradition of education in West Africa, although the story of his empire largely remains little unknown outside West Africa. History is written by victors, according to Britain's World War II Prime Minister Winston Churchill. The fall of an empire. After Mansa Musa died in 1337, aged 57, the empire was inherited by his son, who could not hold the empire together. The smaller states broke off and the empire crumbled. The later arrival of Europeans in the region was the final nail in the empire's coffin. Explaining why the story of Mansa Musa is not widely known, Lisa Corin Graziose, director of the Block Museum of Art, has this to say: the history of the medieval period is still largely seen only as a Western history. Had Europeans arrived in significant numbers in Musa's time, with Mali at the height of its military and economic power, instead of a couple hundred years later, things almost certainly would have been different, says Rudolph Ware, an associate professor of history at the University of California. What do you think about Mansa Musa's story? Do you think historians had done a good job telling the African story? Let's hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, this is likely a good time to subscribe. Until next time, your success matters.